Guys, this is Leland. I just wanted to quickly make a video on an outside bar since I had a couple questions about them. So first things first, let's go ahead and actually pull up Discord. So I wrote this up a little while ago on the outside bar, but basically what an outside bar is when the candle's range has broken both the high and the low of the previous candle. So basically what this outside bar is telling us is there's a rise in volatility and range expansion since the candle made lower lows and higher highs. So this can be, like I said, a signal of volatility, but also potentially indecision in the market, right? Because what do we know about trends? A downtrend, we have lower lows and lower highs, just like this. We'll have price going like this: lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, blah blah blah. And then in an uptrend we have the opposite, right? Higher highs, higher lows. But when we have an outside bar, like I just mentioned, we have a higher high and a lower low. So it's, instead of looking like one of these channels, what we have is a sort of broadening pattern or formation, we call it. So what's happening there is price is doing this. It's making a low, breaking the high, and now it's breaking a low again, breaking a high again, and so on and so forth. So what does that tell you? Like, how do you trade that? Well, there's a couple ways you can go about it. So who has control here, right? Buyers or sellers are in control? The answer is no one. So one way to trade an outside bar is to wait until the previous or the next candle to tell you who is going to claim control. So what that would look like is, instead of making another higher high, you would want to see maybe a 50% retracement and make a lower high. And you could potentially enter shorts there and target that low. And I'm just kind of drawing examples, but we'll go over some. So this could be your entry as soon as the pattern breaks and starts to form, either lower highs like that, or the opposite. If I could delete, that'd be great. Or the opposite could happen, right? Go up and make another higher high and then form a lower or a higher low, just like that, and start to reverse to the uptrend. So that's one way you could trade it. Another way would be if, let's say, you were already bearish and biased, like there's a strong kind of downtrend already, and you start to see this. This is actually something I talked about in my previous video regarding continuation, is when you see price selling off like that and then you see a high broken like this and rejected, this could be another entry point, right? You get this pop over to high, instant rejection, and then it continues down, and you could, the downtrend continues. So let's just look at some examples. First example I want to cover is actually from the daily time frame from October 13th. This candle here, which was obviously like a huge bullish engulfing that kick-started this kind of uptrend that we've been in for the past month or so, or 2 months almost. But as you can see, the previous candle had a high here and a low there. At open, we gapped down to a pretty big support at 350, and immediately buyers kind of stepped in, but we'd already broken the low, remember? So buyers pushed up, they reclaimed that low, and then ended up actually breaking the high of that previous candle as well. So the reason I want to talk about this is because this was the reversal type possible entry for an outside bar. As you can see, before that happened, we had the obvious lower highs and lower lows. Nice clear downtrend until this candle formed. Or what I would personally do when seeing this is like what I just talked about, right? Let's draw it again quickly. You have the broadening pattern forming, which we'll say happened like this. There's that huge green candle that kind of broke that previous low and also broke that previous high. Now what we would want to see is, instead of going long right there, we want to make sure that buyers would maintain control. So we would check, or we would wait for a retrace to about the 50% or 61.8% in fibs we trust. And then we would want to see that higher low held, and then bulls push higher and start to form that uptrend, right? So it no longer is broadening and is now in an uptrend. And that's exactly what happened here, obviously. But let's go down to a smaller time frame and look to see exactly what happened after this candle formed. So I'm going to jump down to the 30-minute, jump back a few days. And look at exactly what happened. So you can see there's that previous candle's low. We gapped down, reclaimed it. Buyers broke that previous high also, and even broke some other previous highs, right? Before finally getting exhausted and kind of retracing. So remember what I said with the fib. You can take a fib of that outside bar, the low to the high, and it didn't quite hold the 50, but it did hold above the 61.8 as well as that previous candle's low, which is a good sign. And then we gapped up. So technically you could go long here and ultimately target these highs, as well as just continuing to go long as this uptrend holds, because that was obviously a major shift in the trend, right? You had the lower lows, the lower highs like that, and it's broken to now form the higher high and higher lows. So that's the first example, and let's jump into some more on the smaller time frames as well. Right now I have the 10-minute time frame up, and you can see there's a couple outside bars right here. So let's just kind of highlight them, or I'll highlight the highs and the lows of the previous candle and then highlight that, right? And then we're just going to jump down to the 1 minute just so we can see exactly what happened in this candle, this outside bar. So, does this look familiar? If you've watched my previous video, and we can actually mark this like this previous high too, because that's kind of an important one. But does this look familiar? What we were looking for previously? If you haven't watched that video, I'd highly recommend watching it. So we have a downtrend, right? Just kind of basic lower lows. Just click. Lower lows, lower highs, and then all of a sudden we kind of get this stall, if you will, not really making higher highs as of yet, but just kind of retracing, doing nothing. And then right here we get this outside bar starting to form. So again, like I said, One way to trade the outside bar, right, is to wait for that high to pop and then reject. So where you could enter, like I talked about in my previous video and like I talked about just a minute ago, when you see this level, this previous high broken and then rejected like this is perfectly valid 40% entry on an outside bar. I would wait for this candle to close, maybe could get in on some of this retrace. And what you would target is, like I said earlier, again, the previous lows, or if you want to be more aggressive, you can, assume that this downtrend will continue, which obviously it did. You can target new lower lows and get some levels from like a previous day or the TA routine, whatever. But hopefully that made sense. Let's go over another one really quick. Just gonna delete these lines. So we have another one here. So let's break down what happened with this one as well. And you can see it's actually trying to potentially hold here. But anyways, let's get a nice little rectangle over this outside bar here. Break down on the 1 minute. And this one was actually kind of aggressive, right? But again, same concept as the previous video and as what I talked about earlier in this video. What do we have? We have a downtrend as previously shown. Lower lows, lower highs. Oh my god. Right? Obviously downtrending. So what do we wait for? We wait for this high to break, and maybe even this one's a good one too. That's why I marked it. You can see even ever so slightly broke above, tiny little wick, but buyers are still getting trapped there, right? And sellers are getting in. So what do we have right there? Right at that high? An inside bar. So again, we have this outside bar forming. What did I say you could do as one potential entry? Wait for those highs to break and reject, just like this. You could enter here at the top, enter here as this high is lost again. Or the third way is you could see if it's potentially going to reverse or if sellers are going to resume control by waiting for this 50% control point to be lost. So those are 3 possible entries with an outside bar that you can take. Again, short the top, wait for this previous high to be broken back below, or wait for the 50% to be lost. And then of course your target is the previous low or a new low. But at this point, sellers are exhausted again, which is very apparent as they're trying to now retest these highs. But hopefully that makes sense. That's all I have for you. If this was not clear, feel free to DM me or tag me in chat.